Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we're going to have a discussion about the Chaos Dwarfs, more specifically regarding a possible slavery mechanic. So without further ado, let's begin. Slavery and Chaos Dwarfs go very hand in hand. It's something very deeply embedded into their lore, and we can make an educated guess that slavery will form a big part of the Chaos Dwarf mechanics in Total War Warhammer. The current slavery system implemented in Total War Warhammer 2 works rather well, but I believe that its current implementation best serves the Dark Elves and the Dark Elves alone. In fact, for those who don't play Dark Elves very often, let's just explain it in brief. On screen right now is an image of the current slavery system. Slaves are acquired mostly through battle, and you will be able to send them to different provinces that you own. These provinces will have a max amount of slaves. The more slaves you have, the more income you'll get, but you'll also suffer from public order issues, which obviously makes sense. And as time progresses, your slaves in your provinces will begin to dwindle, as of course you can only imagine the horrible tortures their experiences within the lands of the Dark Elves, or interesting tortures if captured by Morathi. With this mechanic there are obviously some associated buildings, some which increase the amount of money that you'll earn from having a high amount of slaves, others which will help you alleviate the stress of the public order issues, and finally some others which will slow the rate of decline for said slaves. Now, as I stated before, the system itself works rather well. However, in regards to the Chaos Dwarfs, it may need to be expanded upon further just to give it the more lore-friendly feel. You see, slaves to the Chaos Dwarfs are very much a currency, much like gold or any other type of trade goods. So there are a few things that could possibly be done to make the Chaos Dwarf slavery mechanic rather interesting and deeply embedded into their playstyle. I'm not listing anything in any particular order, and there are a few ideas in this video. A simple idea would be having the slaves as an active currency, very much to our current system with gold, so you would have access to both gold and slaves. Of course, with slaves you would only be able to trade with other factions that use slaves. This would of course be other Chaos Dwarf factions, and maybe even the Dark Elves too if they decide to implement it this way. Meaning that if you want to start focusing some regions that you've taken over into being some slave capitals for you, therefore increasing your income, you can start buying slaves from other factions. We are aware in lore that this actually does happen in the Warhammer Fantasy universe, where slaves are often traded by different Chaos Dwarfs in returns for other goods and services. While this might not sound like the most exciting of mechanics, there are indeed a few extra things that could be done to further enhance this. One such thing would be regarding the Dreadquake Mortar. So the Dreadquake itself is an incredibly powerful artillery piece, considering to be similar in terms of destructive ability, if not more so, than the Vampire Coast Queen Bess unit. For the Vampire Coast, it was established that you can only have one Queen Bess. That makes sense. However, for the Chaos Dwarfs, we are aware that they can keep making more and more. Now, the Dreadquake Mortar was a powerful piece of artillery on the tabletop. Very slow to fire, but once it did, and if it managed to hit its target, it would do a lot of damage. I'm speaking from experience here, being on the receiving end of a few shots of these. Because of this, it can also be assumed that the Dreadquake Mortar would be very powerful in Total War Warhammer, and since they would classify as a standard artillery piece, it could be assumed that they can be recruited over and over again, which will lead to some rather interesting army loadouts for sure. So what if it's the case that very powerful artillery pieces such as the Dreadquake would also require slaves as a currency? That way it will assure you that you won't see just loads of doom stacks of these types of artillery pieces, but you will see them fairly often if the Chaos Dwarfs themselves are aggressive. As of course, the more aggressive you are, the more slaves you will get. I think something like this would be rather fair, especially when it comes to an artillery piece which has been known to sunder the earth and shatter fortifications with a single shot. Lastly, if Creative Assembly are going for a lore-friendly approach for the Chaos Dwarfs, it's important to note that the Chaos Dwarfs are slow in number. The large majority of their forces are not Chaos Dwarfs themselves, but rather various slaves, that and mostly hobgoblins, so it can be assumed that hobgoblins will be the main type of unit to recruit. With the Chaos Dwarfs themselves, of course, being rather expensive to recruit and possibly having a rather large upkeep. How the Chaos Dwarfs went around this to make sure that their race survived was the fact that they had rather strong fortifications in their territories. So it can be assumed that as they take more and more territories, they will require to build up fortifications rather quickly. This could also be translated with the use of slaves. Say for example, as you take more territories, you will have the option to take over the regions, of course. But it should work in a way like the Skaven do in Warhammer 2, where you will be able to use a special resource to be able to build up your cities much quicker. And yes, I'm thinking about it in the exact same way as the Skaven. Say for example, you manage to take Karazakarak, but you're still very much embodied on a war against the other dwarfs. Well, since Karazakarak is quite a strategic location, being a settlement with 10 slots, you might as well upgrade it to its 5th and final tier as soon as you take over. Of course, it wouldn't just be cash to be able to do so, you'd need to expend your slaves as to make them work overtime in a certain sense. Work them to death and make sure that your fortifications are ready. This should not be cheap by any means in terms of slaves, but might provide for a rather cool approach when it comes to this. If it's the case that all that's been discussed gets implemented, well, then you'll have to manage your slaves as a proper resource. Of course, something like this wouldn't work for the Dark Elves, but I think for the Chaos Dwarfs it would be absolutely fantastic. Sure, it might be a bit hard to grasp at first, but I think it should be easy enough to grasp as soon as you have a few turns with the race. But what do you guys think about this idea regarding the Chaos Dwarfs? I just feel like they need something unique for the slave mechanic, as of course it's really embedded into their lore. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.